morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
This morning, we will be talking CARICOM. Yes, we'll be looking at that dispute which has been ongoing now for about 2 weeks or more between Guyana and Venezuela over the Essequibo region. They would have met in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to discuss all that needs to take place, and a man who was there and can tell us firsthand what is what now and where we're going on this matter would be Ambassador to CARICOM, David Comissiong. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Wendy. Pleasure to be here.
I'm glad you're here, but I really wish you were here next to me. But I understand how the meetings are going and you have to be out and about. Now, let's talk the meeting. St. Vincent, CELAC, and CARICOM both came together for these talks. What was the general sentiment from most of the heads or the foreign ministers who were there?
Well, first of all, Wendy, let us put this meeting in context. You just carried a story there about the conflict in Gaza, where the crux of the story was that the United States of America, a country that is a permanent member of the UN Security Council, is actively involved in helping to fuel the conflict in Gaza by providing arms and encouragement and so forth to Israel. And that brings home the colossal failure of the international system, because the United Nations the United Nations Security Council is supposed to take control of a conflict like what is currently raging in Gaza and bring it to an end. Colossal failure. Juxtapose that with what happened in St. Vincent last week, Thursday. Here we have a situation in our region of Latin America and the Caribbean that has its roots in European imperialisms of centuries ago, but had so festered that we were hearing harsh language, tensions rising. We were hearing about threats of militarism. And what did we do? Well, CARICOM stepped forward. CELAC, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, led at this moment by CARICOM, by Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves of St. Vincent, who is the current president of CELAC. And these two hemispheric bodies representing the Caribbean and Latin America came together and said, look, we are going to take control of this situation. We are going to bring the two contending parties together, and we are going to negotiate, a de-escalation of the situation and put in place a process of dialogue and of peacemaking. And that is precisely what happened on Thursday. In fact, I would say, Wendy, that we succeeded beyond our expectations going in. So it was a full day of very intense discussions and negotiations. I would say the two stars of the show, besides the two contending presidents, President Maduro and President Irfan Ali, but the two people who we really have to give tremendous credit to were Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves and Prime Minister Motley. Prime Minister Motley played a very important role in helping to keep the two sides on the same page and in helping to concretize the joint declaration of Argyle for dialogue and peace between Guyana and Venezuela.
Okay, so the Argyle Declaration, so named because of where it was done in St. Vincent?
Yes, the entire event took place at the Argyle International Airport, which was very convenient because all of these planes flew in. I mean, we had, bear in mind, we had several prime ministers from CARICOM, from Trinidad, Dominica, St. Lucia, Grenada, the Bahamas, Barbados. We also had coming into St. Vincent representatives of Brazil, of the president of Brazil, the foreign minister of Chile. We had two representatives of the United Nations Secretary General coming into St. Vincent. So it was just the airport, the Argyle International Airport was just a very convenient place to hold the meeting. Our Barbados delegation, we went in on a plane of the regional security system. And so, we went in early in the morning, spent the whole day there, and got back to Barbados probably about 10:30 or going on to 11 in the evening.
Yeah, because the discussions were indeed quite robust. We would have seen President Ali do a press conference when they took a little break just to let the media and the general population of Guyana, Venezuela, Barbados, everywhere know exactly what was going on. But then we got news from Prime Minister Gonzalez about this 11-point declaration. I want to walk through a few of the areas and exactly what was drafted there to ensure that that militarization that you spoke to before doesn't occur again.
Yes, Wendy, I have a copy of it here with me. The first, you said 11 points, but perhaps a central point is a point where the two sides simply noted their agreement to disagree. And that is, each side noted in the declaration their position, their fundamental position. So that's paragraph number 4, and this is what it says. Guyana and Venezuela declared as follows: noted Guyana's assertion that it is committed to the process and procedures of the International Court of Justice for the resolution of the border controversy. Noted Venezuela's assertion of its lack of consent and lack of recognition of the International Court of Justice and its jurisdiction in the border controversy. So let's just stick a pin there. So this is part of the impasse between the two countries. They have a border dispute. Guyana is saying that the International Court of Justice, who is now seized of the issue, that as far as Guyana is concerned, this is the modality to determine the border dispute, and they are sticking with this. And Guyana believes that whatever decision the ICJ comes to, that should be the end result. Venezuela, on the other hand, is saying, no, we do not accept this. We do not accept the jurisdiction of the ICJ in this matter. And what we, Venezuela, are saying is that the two parties need to go back to the negotiating table in keeping with the Geneva Agreement of 1966 to negotiate a solution that is acceptable to both sides. So there was no movement on this. They both stuck to their respective positions. However, around that now, we went on to deal with, okay, that's your position, you have that impasse, but how do we ensure that that impasse does not degenerate into tension and militarism and force and threats? And so the first paragraph says, Guyana and Venezuela agree that Guyana and Venezuela directly or indirectly will not threaten or use force against one another in any circumstances, including those consequential to any existing controversies between the two states. Secondly, agree that any controversies between the two states will be resolved in accordance with international law, including the Geneva Agreement dated February 17th, 1966. And this is a very important paragraph now, Wendy. Both countries agreed that both states will refrain, whether by words or deeds, from escalating any conflict or disagreement arising from any controversy between them. The two states will cooperate to avoid incidents on the ground conducive to tension between them. In the event of such an incident, the two states will immediately communicate with one another, the Caribbean Community CARICOM, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States CELAC, and the President of Brazil to contain, reverse, and prevent its recurrence.
So, Ambassador Comissiong, in terms of the meeting and the tone that was set, we still remain in the position that nothing more as to who really owns the Essequibo until we go to the ICJ. But that decision in and of itself won't be an overnight one, will it?
So we haven't solved the impasse. The meeting in St. Vincent was not designed to solve the impasse. But there's another part of the declaration, Wendy, that is very critical. So we just heard that the declaration has gotten both countries to deal with no use of force, no threats, and if some unfortunate incident happens, a soldier fires off their gun across the border or something, maybe even accidentally, that will not spiral into some kind of crisis. There's a mechanism now for that, for dealing with that. But the other part of the declaration says, Wendy, that the two countries have agreed to establish a joint commission comprised of their foreign ministers and the technical advisors and experts of both sides. That joint commission will meet, will have discussions, and will report back to both presidents in 3 months' time. The two countries have also agreed to a follow-up meeting in Brazil in 3 months' time, or if they choose to amend the date, but a follow-up meeting that will take place in Brazil, where they will continue to discuss the situation. And that is also agreed that Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez, in his role as CELAC, um, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, who is the current chair of CARICOM, and the President of Brazil will continue to be the interlocutors and to play that good office's role. So yes, even though the impasse has not been resolved, a new process of dialogue and discussion has been established. And we will have to hope that through that new process, bringing them together, where they now sit and talk about the situation, that out of that, there can be a meeting of the minds. Who knows? Maybe Guyana will persuade Venezuela to look. Yes, let's agree on the ICJ being the definitive modality for determining this matter. Or maybe Venezuela will persuade Guyana that no, the ICJ is not the best way to go. Let us look at another modality, or let us see if we could mutually, discuss and work this thing out among ourselves. So we don't know, but the point is, we now have a process for dialogue and discussion where, a few days ago, we were trading heated threats and insults, and the tension was rising. So that is the importance of what we achieved last week.
Yes, and tensions are the last thing that we want to rise, because there are a number of people who might also be asking, well, why is Barbados so invested in this? Why is the rest of the Caribbean so invested in this? But these are our neighbors, and any impact, given how the two countries trade and the commodities they trade in, any adverse fallout from this situation will impact us all.
Well, the truth is, we must all be invested in peace. I mean, we see what is going on in the world. Gaza is on our television screens every day. We see when the world is not invested in peace, when the institutions that have been given the responsibility to make peace and to preserve peace do not function, like the UN Security Council. You know, those five member states, those five permanent member states, the US, UK, France, China, Russia, were invested with great power and therefore great responsibility. That when a breach of the international peace occurs, they are supposed to come together with the other members of the Security Council and take control of the situation and make peace. They have not done so. And what has been the result, Wendy? Over 20,000 civilians dead in Gaza, destruction, children, thousands and children dead or orphaned. That is what happens when you don't invest in peace. And I want to go back to my opening statement. This what happened last week is a wonderful example of the maturity of our Caribbean community, of the institutions that we have established, including CELAC, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States. We did the right thing. We didn't wait. We didn't wait for no United Nations or no UN Security Council or any other international body. We came together and said, look, our region must be a zone of peace. Guyanese and Venezuelans, these are regional brothers and sisters. You know, Barbados has a very, very close relationship with Guyana. I would say, you know, in terms of our bilateral diplomacy within the region, Guyana is our strongest partner. And, you know, and even at a people to people level, there's so many Barbadians and Guyanese who share common ancestral links. By the same token, as Prime Minister Motley said a few weeks ago, Venezuela has been a very good friend to the Caribbean community, you know, to the Caribbean community with their Petro-Carib Energy Cooperation Agreement, with their Bolivarian Alliance for the Americas. And so we have a vested interest in ensuring that whatever dispute these two countries have, and we are very conscious, you know, Wendy, that this is a dispute that has its roots in the colonial era.
That it
This,
does. It
this is
stems back so very
this,
far. And,
this,
you know, people might have been saying to themselves, well, I thought this was settled long ago. But then, you know, up comes whatever. We know what most people are saying the catalyst for it is. And while Guyana's oil discoveries are that of Guyana, I guess there's more exploration to be done. But at the end of the day, regardless of what that catalyst is, we want to know that our neighbors are not fighting, because we don't want to be drawn into any fight. What we want to do is live together, trade together, and flourish together at the end of it all.
yes, yes, and we must remain a zone of peace. That is critical to our foreign policy in CARICOM. That's a central plank of CARICOM's foreign policy. And this is not the first time that CARICOM has stepped forward to try to make peace. See, I recall back in January of 2019 when Juan Guaido in Venezuela suddenly declared himself president of Venezuela, and the United States quickly ratified that decision, and it seemed as if we were heading to some kind of military intervention in Venezuela. CARICOM got together our leaders in an emergency meeting very quickly. We said, no, this must not happen. We must remain a zone of peace. And we immediately sent four of our leaders, Prime Minister Motley, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts Nevis, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and the Secretary General of CARICOM, immediately went to the United Nations to meet with the Secretary General. And we were able to play a very important role in bringing down that situation,
Yes.
ensuring there was no militarism. So this again, I think the fact that we have done this a second time now,
It
this is
speaks
very encouraging.
volumes,
It's very
Ambassador. It very,
Yes.
because it says that we're able to control what is within our own house, within our own space, and we still maintain our sovereignty while we have amicable dialogue. I want to thank you so much for joining me
Well,
this morning. And again, I'll probably see you on Tuesday when we'll have more conversations on CARICOM. And I hope the best for those 3 months of work that the committees have to do so that this matter is resolved once and for all. Thank you once again for joining me this morning.
thank you, Wendy, and wishing you all the best for the Christmas and holiday season.
Thank you so much, and same to you and your family.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning.